Hello ladies and gentlemen, Centauri here and welcome back to another video. Now I hope all of you are doing well because I'm as always, and in today's video we're going to be doing autopilot versus manual landing here on Infinite Flight Mobile Flight Simulator. So right now we're going to start off with myself, and I'm going to do a manual landing first. So I'm going to use the little hub mode here, and we're in the 787-9, that's the variant we're taking today. And basically, we're going to see who can do the smoothest landing here on Infinite Flight. Now, I do back myself here in the 787-9. It's one of my stronger aircraft in landing. So, I'm really hoping we can, get a better landing than Autopilot can on Infinite Flight. But you can never tell, especially when you're here at Heathrow, because sometimes there are those dodgy winds that do come across. So, I've set my trim at 25%, which is a lot higher than I usually have it. But it's going to hopefully allow me to come in for a bit of a stronger landing, which should in turn make my life a tiny bit easier. So you can see there we're a little bit or below the glide slope actually, but the puppy lights are giving me one red and one white, which is all good for me, and I'm not yet to use those rudders. Which I will actually probably use in just a second here to make sure we're fully aligned with runway here. So we're landing runway 27 left here at London Heathrow, so it's a pretty familiar runway here on the channel. We use it very, very often. Now, if you are new here though, and this is your first time at the channel, and you've actually, made it through the first 2 minutes of the video, please do consider subscribing. We're pushing on towards those 6,000 subscribers, and hopefully we can get there very, very soon. So we're going to see right here, we're going to come in for a nice landing. Now we will have a look on replay mode as well, probably right after this perhaps, and then we'll do the autopilot landing. And I'm pretty sure the autopilot, will give us a run for our money. But, I'm fully backing ourselves here to get a smooth landing. So we're currently at a few hundred feet here. And we're right above the runway, so I'm going to really try and push up. Now I don't want to float too much, because that won't be as good of a landing as we want. Oh, okay, so we've sort of felt that to try and keep the nose up a little bit. And let's slowly bring that down. Now that was a very good landing. We're right on centre line as well still. And we've slowly brought that nose down. Now that is probably one of the best landings I've seen here in a while on the channel. So we definitely absolutely smashed that. Look at us, and we've not even used that much runway. Let's bring all the flat surface down. Brilliant. And then obviously we'd steer off right there. Now that was incredible. So let's use autopilot actually straight. No, let's go have a look at the replay mode. I couldn't decide. I can never decide. But we're going to have a look at our landing because I thought that was really good, and I really want to have a look, see what it looked like there on replay mode. So we'll get a couple of views of that, and let's see how well we did. I'm thinking that was good. That felt smooth, especially when we kept up the flare after the landing. We kept that up for quite a while. Maybe a little bit too long, but it doesn't matter because the nose came down nice smoothly, and that was probably due to the trim. Which we had. Maybe I should start using more trim because I usually only use about 14%, which is minimal. So we're going to zoom all the way here. Now we're right by the runway here, and let's try and see what view. This view might give us the best idea of how the rear end of the aircraft is actually touching ground. So hopefully it looks as smooth as it felt. So we're about to find out. We're coming over the final little gate there. And you can see us there where we're just tipping our nose up a little bit. I'm a little bit worried we're going to have a flare right here. A float, I meant. So, yeah, right here. We're sort of good. We're good. Oh, now that was one smooth landing. And then, obviously, we kept the nose up as well. And we're right on centre line. Now that, for my first attempt as well, I don't think many of you will believe it, but that was my first attempt. That's going to be hard for the autopilot to beat. So, let's see what it's got. I'm fully back in autopilot here to land the plane onto the right runway, but we're obviously going to have to sort out the approach mode whilst trying to come in here. Now, approach generally is very good in Infinite Flight. They keep the ILS, everything, all sorts. The glide slope, it's generally pretty good with that. So this is also when we find out the 787 hasn't got approach mode, which last time I checked it did, but I might be imagining stuff. So we want to go on autopilot and we want approach. So vertical speed mode must be enabled, so we're going to just bonk that on. And now the approach. Now we're on the localizer here for the runway, and I mean hopefully the aircraft lands. The aircraft is currently stalled in right now, so this is a brilliant start for autopilot here, just steering the aircraft right up into the unknown. And now it's going to attempt the nosedive. There was just a little hill it had to go over, nothing too serious. So let's just see, how's it looking? So it looks like the aircraft is trying to keep it. So we're going to try and put it about 150 knots. That's a reputable landing speed here. So we are obviously having to control a few of these things here. Now let's just make sure that the nav is also set as well. Yep, so we want runway 27 left. Let's set that on another one. Just triple check, you know, it's all good. And yeah, you can see here actually, you did for a second. I should have bonk on the HUD. You can see that the aircraft is actually headed towards the runway. And it's coming in quite nicely and smoothly here. So Autopilot is definitely going to give us a run for our money here. So we're coming in. I mean, maybe there is a little bit of wind. I mean, the crosswind isn't really that bad. I don't really see any like anywhere new. So, no, perhaps the wind isn't that bad. So, you know, it's coming in though. We're good on the glide slope. You guys can see we're a little bit below it, but we were as well when we came in. So I'm expecting some big stuff. Now Autopilot again has done a brilliant job keeping up that speed. For some reason they've just increased the speed just a little bit. I thought we were coming in quite nicely, but that's alright. The approach mode is enabled. Now we need like an auto throttle that will completely manually do all this. So hopefully we start to see that flare up. So we'll focus on in the cockpit here and keep it at that. And hopefully we don't slam into the ground. Hopefully it flares up. It's not going to flare up. Oh, okay. It definitely landed, and it's definitely kept that. Look how good that centerline was though on touchdown. So obviously we can disengage with this, and we can just slightly realign it. But for how Autopilot goes, it's really giving us a run for our money. So we're going to have a look on this. So obviously the initial start, the approach was really badly messed up, but generally, you know, when you're coming towards the end of the flight, you'll already have Autopilot enabled because you'll be using your descent with the vertical navigation system on the stars that you'll be using on your approach, so the standard approach systems. So we'll just have another cheeky look and see how that went. I mean, I think that went pretty well. I can see this being very promising for the people who want Autopilot to be better than manual. Personally, I think manual might be the safer way to do it. But hopefully we're going to load in. There we go. I called it. So now we're definitely here in the smooth part of the state. And you can see, to be fair, the approach of the aircraft, it looks pretty smooth coming in. You know, it's very stable. It's much more stable than we were. That's definitely one thing to take into account, you know, the stability. And I love the wing flex on the 787 here. So we're going to try and see what these landing gear look like here on the line. Because, again, there was no flare. We had that flare, but I was a bit worried about the float. We would have been close to a tail strike, but this one definitely was like a thud into the ground. But, you know, they might be better off for the centerline, so we'll have a look. So here we are. Let's go. Let's see how Virgin Atlantic Autopilot did. So, again, I feel like we're coming in. This is when I wanted to flare up. Yeah, I mean, there might be a few concussions in the rear of the aircraft and that, but it made it. It was a landing. I mean, if you had no pilot, it's better than no landing, as you see here where we fixed it all up. Let's just have a look at that one more time from this view. Yeah, I mean, come on, it's not that bad. I think they did pretty well here. I think, you know, especially when we look back how like smooth the approach was. Very unbalanced, very bang on. So I think, you know, that deserved kudos. That was very good. So guys, let me know down below what one you think was the best. I think manual takes the win here today. But obviously, that's due to my many years of great experience. If you guys want me to do this in an aircraft like the A220 or the 737 or even the A320 family, where it's probably going to be a little bit more matched because I have chosen an aircraft I'm better at. So maybe I'll do that in the future. But other than that, please do like and subscribe. Channel members are also available. So other than that, I'll see you in my next video. Good night.